Om Sri Sai Ram. Respected elders, brothers and sisters who are present at the program today, we welcome you in our series of Sai Karuna talk. We're very fortunate to have Brother Shashank amongst us today. And without further ado, with immense joy and pleasure, I'd like to introduce Brother Shashank. Brother Shashank Shah joined the Sri Sathya Sai Institute of Higher Learning in the year 2002 for the MBA program, for which he won the President of India Gold Medal for first place. He then went on to complete his Master in Philosophy, where again, he was awarded the Governor's Gold Medal. With Swami's blessings, he then took up and successfully completed his PhD, postdoctoral studies in the field of business management, once again receiving an award for Outstanding Doctoral Management Student Award 2010 by the Association of Indian Management Scholars International. Brother Shashank was also part of the management faculty at the Institute in Puttaparthi. In more recent years, he has been a visiting scholar at INSEAD in France, the Copenhagen Business School, and the Harvard Business School. He has to his credit numerous publications and 3 very highly regarded books. Apart from his busy academic work, he's very actively involved in the projects undertaken by the Sri Sathya Sai Seva Organization, India. Brother Shashank is a prolific speaker who has had numerous opportunities to speak in Swami's presence at many events in Parthi, Brindavan, Kodaikanal, Chennai, and other places. We're very fortunate to hear from him about his plethora of experiences with our dearest Lord and the many lessons that have guided him all throughout his life. We're ever thankful to our dear Swami for allowing us to listen to his leelas and draw lessons and inspiration to sublimate our lives in his glory and love. Jai Sara.
Om Shri Sai Ram. Offering my loving pranams at Swami's Divine Lotus feet. A very warm good afternoon to the devotees in the United Kingdom, and greetings to Sai devotees from across the world who've joined this live telecast of the Sai Karuna theme of talks organized by the Sathya Sai International Organization, United Kingdom. I'm thankful to Brother Ketan, the National Chair of the UK organization, Brother Karthik Prashant, who coordinated today's session, and Sister Kavita, who introduced me for all the background work that they have done to make this possible. I thank the office bearers and the organization leadership of the UK organization for inviting me to address devotees as a part of the Sai Karuna series of talks. The theme for my talk today is understanding the purpose and power of prayer. There isn't a better time to talk about the power of prayer. There isn't a better time to talk about the need for praying than what we are currently facing. So let me begin with a story which Swami had narrated way back in 1964, in February 1964, while addressing devotees in Penukonda, in a place near Puttaparthi. This is a story of a hermit who was praying, who was meditating outside a particular village. And he saw that the goddess of cholera was exiting that village. There's a lot of symbolism in several stories that Swami used to narrate, and this one is no different. So he looked at the goddess of cholera, and he realized that since the goddess of cholera is leaving that village, there would have been a set of people who would have succumbed to that disease and would have passed away. So he asked the goddess of cholera, "Oh mother, how many were graced by your presence in this village and how many had to succumb to the disease that you represent. So she very humbly said that only 10 people I have taken into my lap during my visit to this particular village. And then the hermit reflected and realized that he had heard that there were a large number of people who passed away in that village because of cholera. So he asked the goddess mother, but I have heard that nearly 100 people have died due to cholera. You say only 10 have been taken into your lap. So how do you explain this difference? She smiled and said, my dear child, I accepted only 10 into my lap. The rest died out of fear. That exactly represents what most of us go through whenever there are times of crises and the world is struck by one, and no nation has been spared the damaging impact of the COVID-19 virus. Fear is a direct outcome whenever something like this happens. But fear haunts us even otherwise all the time. We have fear of birth, we have fear of death, we have fear of success, we have fear of failure, we have fear of promotion, we have fear of demotion, we have fear of isolation, we have fear of visibility. Fear, fear, fear. Swami always used to say, bhayam, bhayam, bratuku bhayam. Living itself is fearful for most. Why this fear? Why should you be fearing anything when you have God by your side? That is the situation even today. More than the harm that the disease can do to us, it is the fear of this disease that has possessed us. And one recent study says that nearly 25% of the world is haunted by what is now called Corona anxiety, the fear and anxiety that is an outcome of the COVID-19 pandemic. And what fear do we go, what is our core fear at all of this? Fear of death. Why are we afraid of Corona? Why are we afraid of any such damning difficulties that we go through? Why? It is because we fear death. But in the spiritual scheme of things, fear of death is good. In fact, the journey of spirituality begins with the fear of death. It happened to the great sage Ramana Maharishi. And if you haven't read his life, please read his biography, which is a phenomenal insight into his life. And his spiritual journey began when we had a first near-death experience. And that very night, he resolved to progress towards his spiritual destination, which is Arunachaleshwara, the venerated hill in Tamil Nadu, and realized that that's where his spiritual destiny is. He began his journey because he experienced death and the fear associated with that. It happened with Gautam Buddha. Gautam Buddha's famous story of him seeing those four sights of an old man, of a sick man, of a dead man, and of a yogi. And when he saw these four sights which plunged him in sorrow and which were the cause of sorrow, he realized that everything in this world is full of sorrow, then there has to be a solution to it. And he embarked on his spiritual journey to find the solution to what he said, Sarvam Dukkham, Sarvam Kshanikam. Everything is sorrowful, everything is temporary. There has to be an way out of this, and let me go ahead and look for that. So their reactions were very different. Having understood the ephemeral nature of life, they embarked on their spiritual journey. Swami would often joke with the students in Trai Vrindavan. He used to say, Buddha saw four sights. He used to ask the students, what are the four sights that Buddha saw? Then they would repeat, sick man, old man, dead man, and a yogi. Buddha saw four sights, Swami said, and he progressed on his spiritual journey. His heart was transformed instantly, and there was never again an occasion for him to feel or regret his decision, because he knew exactly what he was doing and why he had moved ahead. Swami said, how many of you have seen those four sights? Most of the students would raise their hands. Swami said, see, almost all of you have seen those four sights, but none of you have had an iota of transformation in the heart like Buddha had. And that's why he's venerated as the Buddha, whereas all of you have no buddhi. He used to joke, buddhi ledu, you have no buddhi. You have no sense of discrimination of what is right and what is wrong. So why am I talking about this? Because the whole purpose of prayer has to be seen in the context in which we usually use this most powerful tool that humankind has been associated with. But unlike Ramana Maharishi or the Gautam Buddha, we do not use such difficult situations to recalibrate our spiritual journey and work towards our destination, our spiritual destination. Instead, we indulge in some transactional devotion and pray to God that we are not affected by this disease, we are not affected by the set of problems, etc. But having been spared, so okay, let's say that God listens to our prayer. He spares us the disease, he spares us the problems. But having been spared the disease, the problems, and the after effects of that, are we willing to lead our lives afresh? Are we willing to recalibrate our journeys in gratitude for the grace that has been showered on us in response to our prayers to God? No, most often not. We go back to the same old ways. In Hindi, Swami used to joke, khana, pina, sona, marna. We are back to our old ways of eating, drinking, sleeping, and awaiting death one fine day. If we are not using these opportunities where God showers his grace on us to transform ourselves and begin our journey afresh, then it's a very transactional form of devotion, which will not lead us much ahead in our journey. Some used to say, what we should fear is not death, but birth. The fact that you are born, you will die one day. Everything, everyone, every being who is born has to die one fine day. In fact, that's the most mysterious aspect of human psychology, which was highlighted in the Yaksha Prashna in Mahabharata. The Yaksha asks Yudhishthira during a series of questions in the forest. And in that, one of the questions is, what is the most strange, the most mysterious thing in this world? The Yaksha asks Yudhishthira. And Yudhishthira says, the most mysterious, the most strange thing in this world is that everybody knows that he or she has to die one fine day. But everybody thinks that that truth is not applicable to him or her, and hence lives as if he or she is never going to die. This is the most fascinating fallacy that we all nurture, and we live our lives as if it's going to go on forever. Some used to say the fact that you are born, you will die one day. But what is important is that having been born, we should ensure that we are not born again. The human form with all its capabilities has been given only for that purpose. That's why the mission statement of human life is, we are born so as not to be born again. I'll repeat, we are born so as not to be born again. Every human endeavor is meant to achieve this end outcome. Everything else is incidental. But we are very often fond of what Swami used to call the March, September, March cycle. What is the March, September, March cycle in Indian examination system? If you do not clear the exam in March, you will clear the exam in September. And if you don't clear the exam in September, then you can write again in the next year in the month of March. And so the March, September, March cycle continues. Swami would often say, why do you use this precious human life for the March, September, March cycle? If I don't clear this particular lifetime, another lifetime, another lifetime, another lifetime. And like this, we have lived 1 million lifetimes, and yet we have not achieved the purpose for which this precious human life has been given. And there's a very funny story associated with that, which Swami often would say. And then I'll go on to the theme of prayer. In one of the summer courses, Swami narrated this story of this prisoner who completed his term, his jail term, and he was called by the inspector or the jailer of that particular jail and said that please collect your belongings, you are going to be free tomorrow. So this man said, I don't care. I'm not that happy about it. The jailer asked him, aren't you happy? He said, no, I'm not that happy about it. He said, okay, at least come and collect your belongings. So the prisoner said, this particular criminal, the thief said, I don't care, you keep it with you. He said, why? He said, because anyway, when I go out, I will commit some form of a crime. And having committed that crime, I will again be brought back to this jail. This jail is a very comfortable place for me to stay. So what is the, why should I even bother to collect my belongings? Just let them be there in your office. Swami said that's exactly how most of us are living. We are so comfortable with this life on this earth. We are so happy with whatever we have. And we feel that, yes, this is the place to be. We don't realize that this is not our destination. The world, the universe, Swami used to say, is a university where we gain knowledge about the mysteries of life. The world, Swami used to say, is a laboratory where, having gained this knowledge, we perform various experiments and know whether our experiments and our understanding is right or wrong. And then this world is a playground where we live this life and fight to win the game and put all our capabilities, talents, and learnings into play so that we can win this game of life. So the world is a university, the world is a laboratory, the world is a playground. At best, the world is a chowdhury where we rest in between our eternal journey. The world is not a residence for us to presume that this is where we are going to be and this is where we have to come back again and again. The purpose and power of prayer is in helping us overcome the fear of exiting this world and instilling in us the faith of the true purpose for which human life has been given. So this is a brief background to why prayer, understanding the purpose of prayer and understanding the power of prayer. The biggest challenge with an online talk is I just don't get to see the reactions of the participants. So I really do not know whether all of you are with me, all of you are able to understand the background, the context which I'm trying to share. But that's the limitation of an online talk. But the advantage is that I'm able to reach out to several thousands from across the globe. So I'll presume that y'all are with me and are able to relate to these very precious gems from Swami's message and his literature. So let me go into the exact word prayer. And let me parse the word, the 6 alphabets of the word prayer, and dwell into each of those alphabets to understand what prayer truly stands for. So let me begin with the last alphabet, which is R. I'll go backwards. So the last alphabet is R. R stands for reminder. Reminder of what? Prayer is a reminder of what? And I'm reminded of this experience in the Bhajan Hall in Prashantinalayam. It was the year 2007. It was the Akhand Bhajan day. The Akhand Bhajans were over. We had benefited from such beautiful vibrations and such melodious music sung by Swami's students. And the Bhajan Hall was full of joy and bliss. And imagine Swami sitting there and the Arati and all the lovely environment that we were in. And at that time, Swami asked the organizers to get the microphone. So we were delighted. That was the icing on the cake after such a fulfilling summer Akhand Bhajan. We realized that Swami was going to give us a discourse. And that was going to be after several years because Swami had stopped giving discourses after Akhand Bhajan. Earlier years, there was a tradition, but that wasn't happening for long years. So that year, we were very happy that Swami would give a discourse. And Swami asked for the mic and he started the discourse. And in the process of the discourse, Swami said, all of y'all are very happy that y'all have performed Akhanda Bhajan. Akhanda Bhajan, Akhanda means non-stop, right? So we think 24/7, 24 hours in a one day is Akhand Bhajan. Swami said, you're so happy that you have performed the Akhand Bhajan. But this is not Akhand Bhajan. This is Khanda Bhajan, broken bhajan, small part bhajan. Why? Because in a life that lasts several decades, you have sung the glory of God only for 24 hours. True Akhand Bhajan starts from the mother's womb and continues till you enter the womb of Mother Earth in your tomb. That is the constant akhand bhajan that you need to be undertaking, Swami said. And God has put into place a mechanism into your being which reminds you of this akhand bhajan 21,600 times a day. That is your very process of breathing. So so hum, I am that, I am that, I am God, I am divine. This is the mechanism of reminder of our divine identity that has been put in place by God into this machine when it has been brought into this earth and continues till the very last breath. But are we tuning into this particular constant reminding mechanism, this app that has been given to us to remind ourselves of our divinity? Prayer achieves that particular objective. Unfortunately, we limit prayer to a specific day of the week, Thursdays, Sundays, specific time of the day. However, it is interesting to note that scriptures of most religions have arranged prayers in such a way that you can transform your life itself into an act of prayer. And let me share examples from the prayers that we do at Prashanti Nilayam and how each of them helps us in achieving this objective. We start the day with Suprabhatam. Suprabhatam is supposedly a prayer to awaken God. But does God ever sleep? He is always awake. In fact, he is the very awareness which we come into when we are awake. So actually, Suprabhatam is not for waking up God, but it is waking up the divinity within us. That is the purpose of Suprabhatam. When we have bath, Swami used to say, you must chant the Gayatri mantra when you are having bath, so that the act of cleansing your body becomes an act of performing Abhishekam. When you are having food, you chant Brahmarpanam or the food prayer, and that transforms the Naivedyam into Prasadam. So what food you are actually consuming after chanting the Brahmarpanam is actually God's Prasadam. The night prayer that we chant before we go to bed is for asking for forgiveness from God, to pardon our sins, to audit our life, and to request for the strength not to repeat those mistakes and stay steadfast on our spiritual journey. Each of these are meant to enable us to remind ourselves of the divinity within. Unfortunately, we always believe divinity is somewhere outside. That's why we go for pilgrimages. We go for pilgrimages to places which are most difficult to reach. And you see in India, most of the pilgrim places are on top of hills, very difficult terrains. Badrinath, Kedarnath, Amarnath, Vaishnav Devi, Tirupati, all of these are on top of hills. And before modern infrastructure and even after modern infrastructure, most of them are difficult to reach. But after reaching the top of the hill and getting into the shrine, when we are face to face with the idol and we begin our prayer, what do? Look at the idol, and in a few seconds, our eyes close. And then we look at the Lord within. Very, very automatically, very naturally, our mechanism tends to remind us when we are praying that God is within us. We would have strained ourselves 10 hours to go on top of that hill to see that deity. But when we reach the deity face to face, we see the God, we close our eyes. We don't look at the deity, we look at the Lord within, because that is the reality. This body is the temple and the Lord is within. That's why Swami used to often quote, Deho Deva Lef Prokto, Jivo Deva Sanatanaha. God, the body is a temple and God is the inherent divinity. In fact, the temple architecture is very interesting for young adults to reflect on. The Indian temple architecture is actually as per the human body. A traditional South Indian temple is one which has Sapta Prakaras, 7 compounds, and Navadwaras, 9 entry points. What is this symbolic of? The Sapta Prakaras, or the 7 compounds, are symbolic of the 7 layers of the human skin. The 9 entry points, Navadwaras, into the temple are symbolic of the 9 entry points and exit points from our human body. The Dvajastambha at the entrance is symbolic of the spine. The Gopuram from which one enters is symbolic of feet which are turned in the reverse direction when we are doing Namaskaram. The Garbhagriha, the sanctum sanctorum where the deity is placed, is actually symbolic of our heart where God resides. So the entire temple visit is meant to be reminding us while we are praying that actually divinity lies within us. Prayer is meant to be a reminder. In most of the verses that we chant, what is the last word we have? Namaha. Namaha, either before or after. Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namo Nara. That Namaha word comes. What is the meaning of the word Namaha? Not me, Namaha, but you, not I, but God. In fact, the word Namaste, which has become very popular in the COVID times, actually means that we are venerating the divinity in the other person. Every aspect of the Indian culture is meant to remind us of the very divine identity that all of us have. And this prayer, I'd like to quote what Swami said in a particular discourse on 16th of June, 1983. And I'd encourage you to go and look up the relevant discourses, and that's why I'm giving the exact date. Swami said, just as some kind of cleaning powder is used for cleaning vessels, prayer is the means of cleaning the heart. Through a pure heart, one achieves spiritual insight. So it does not matter what brand of washing powder you're using. It's not what Swami is saying. I'm adding to this. It does not matter what kind of washing powder you're using as long as you clean your vessels. Similarly, the language and type of prayer is secondary. The intention behind the prayer, the reminder of our divinity behind the prayer is primary. And let me share a personal experience. This goes back to the year 2007. It was the month of April. I had completed 1 month as a PhD student. Sister Kavita introduced me as having completed my PhD in Swami's University. So I had completed 1 month, and we had received a stipend. And in the Indian scheme of things, you usually give your first stipend to your mother, or your first earning, your first salary to your mother. So I wanted to give my first salary to my Divine Mother, to Swami. And so I decided that I'll put the money in an envelope. I wrote a letter of gratitude and went to Swami's residence in Yajur Mandiram and handed over the letter stating that this is a letter of gratitude to Swami. I've completed 1 month. I did not mention what is there in that particular envelope. I handed it over to Brother Satyajit, who was in charge at that time of Swami's residence. And then I had no other expectation. In fact, I was hoping and wishing that in all the hundreds of letters inside Swami's residence, he shouldn't open this letter because students giving money to Swami is an extremely dangerous terrain, because Swami would feel very upset if students would give money to Swami in any form. He always used to say, I am your mother. You take from mother, you never give back to a mother, because it is the mother's right to nurture and nourish the child throughout her life. So do not insult that love. Do not be ungrateful to that love. So I just wanted to give that stipend as a token of gratitude, and came back to the bhajan hall and sat way behind in the 10th or 12th row, and hoping that Swami will come, bhajans will happen, and that's it. It'll all be forgotten. That's all. That was my only intention. From my side, I had done my job of giving my token of gratitude to my Divine Mother. So I sat in the 10th row. The music began, the Vedam chanting began. So I knew Swami had come into the Kulwant hall. My heart was beating a little faster than usual because my only concern was Swami should not get angry. And I explained the reasons to you earlier. So I was hoping that nothing happens. I can still feel that as I'm narrating to you. What will happen was the feeling. So Swami gave darshan in the entire Kulwant hall. And then instead of going into the interview room, he came straight into the bhajan hall. And when he came into the bhajan hall, he had that envelope in his hand, which I had given in the residence. almost 90 minutes to 2 hours before. And the first thing he said when he came into the bhajan hall, Shashank, Shah, he almost announced my name. And I was trying harder to not to be seen because I because I was really scared of what's going to happen. So obviously, if Swami is calling out your name, it's a matter of joy, and anybody would jump at the opportunity. I didn't jump. I was wanting to actually jump out of the bhajan hall that day, but people next to me were nudging me, "Go, go! Swami is calling you." So I stood up and very hesitantly I went and knelt down next to Swami's chair. Uh, and then Swami said, "Did you give this envelope?" I said, "Yes, Swami." "What is this?" I said, "Swami, this is my first stipend. I've completed 1 month of PhD, so I'm handing over this to you as a token of gratitude." Swami said, "There is money inside this envelope. Don't give money like this." So I just kept quiet. Then Swami opened the envelope. He counted those notes one after the other. And then he again put them inside. He closed the flap of the envelope. He again folded it, pulled my pocket, put the envelope inside, and he said, "Don't give money like this to Swami. If you need anything from Swami, ask me. This is not my money. This is university's money. It has been given to you for your boarding and lodging. It is not for anything else. So use it for boarding and lodging. Okay?" I said, "Yes, Swami." Then I was folding my hand like this. Swami looked at my hand and there's this ring which Swami had given me in 2005. So he asked me, "What is this?" I said, Swami asked me, "Have I given you this ring?" I said, "Yes, Swami." "Then why have you put this ring in front of it?" I said, "Swami, because this is loose." He said, "Oh, it is loose." Then he waved his hand and materialized another ring and put it on my other hand finger. And then he said, "This is perfect size. Go and sit down." People around were very happy with whatever happened. I knew that instead of getting some very severe reprimand from Swami because I had ventured into a very slippery territory, I was actually rewarded by his grace in such immense measure. In fact, some of my classmates and juniors joked with me that you gave your stipend to Swami. You not only got stipend back, but you got a diamond ring along with that. So, why am I sharing this story? Why am I sharing this experience here? I'm sharing this experience here to say that the intention behind what we do is the most important. Prayer consistently reminds us that what is the intention behind our prayer? Why are we doing that prayer? As I said, the most important purpose of praying is to remind ourselves of our true divinity. And in this case, the intention was expressing gratitude, reminding us that all that we have received is from Swami. How can we express gratitude to Swami? In fact, that's what Swami said in a discourse on 19th of March, 1998. He said, "Gratitude to God is prayer." We have to express our gratitude to God for all that He has blessed us with. If your kerchief falls down and someone gives you that kerchief back, don't you say thank you? Has that person created that kerchief or gifted that kerchief to you? No. It was fallen down. He or she picked it up and gave it to you, and you say thank you. Then why do you hesitate to say thank you to God for all that He has given to you? These five elements, this beautiful sunlight, this soothing wind, this very, very satiating drops of rain, these are all gifts of God. How many times do we close our eyes and thank God and remind ourselves in prayer that this is the gift of God? I'm grateful for this gift, oh God. Thank you very much. This is the tax that we have to pay to God. Swami said, this is the tax of gratitude that you have to pay to God. You pay tax to the municipality for merely facilitating these gifts to reach your house, but you do not pay any tax to God, who is the giver of these gifts. So this is the R, the reminder of the divinity within, reminder of the intention behind our prayer, reminder of the need to be grateful to God and express that in our prayer. The second alphabet in reverse order is E, equanimity. I'm reminded of a conversation in Trai Vrindavan. All of the students were sitting in front of Swami. Swami was sitting in this beautiful jula. Swami used to use those opportunities to interact with students and ask them questions, and in the process, communicate very valuable lessons. So Swami was talking to the students, and then he said, I have a question for you. In one village, there's one part of the village where a farmer, a rich trader, a merchant, his daughter is going to get married. He's made a lot of arrangements for the marriage, and he's spent a lot of money for that. But the sky is overcast and it's going to rain any moment. So the merchant is praying fervently that, oh God, let it not rain. At the other end of the village, a few kilometers away, there is this farmer who has worked hard the entire season, sowing the seeds, tilling the land, and making it ready. So when the rain falls in the season, he'll get the harvest, and his livelihood and his existence would be taken care of. So he's fervently praying, oh Lord, let it rain in abundance so that all my hard work bears fruit. So here are two sets of people. One is praying that let it not rain because my daughter's wedding is going to happen. Another person is praying, let it rain because I worked hard the entire season to get the field ready for the rains. Whose prayer should God answer? Swami asked that question to the students. And then there was the usual hush murmuring in the trai. And then students started answering the question. Some students said, Swami, God should listen to the trader's merchant's prayer because it's a very important occasion in his life, his daughter's marriage. You get married only once, hopefully, and hence that occasion should be taken care of. So God should listen to the merchant. On the other hand, some students said, no, Swami, God should listen to the farmer. It's a question of his existence. Both sides put their pleas before the Chief Justice of our lives. And then Swami listened to both and said, okay, now I'll give the verdict. He said, both of you are wrong. Then what is the right answer? The right answer is each of them should have prayed, oh God, you know what is in the best interest of everyone. Let that which is good for everyone happen. That is the true prayer that God expects out of us. When Swami had come to the university auditorium in February 2005 to felicitate the outgoing Vice Chancellor, Sri S.V. Giri, and to welcome the incoming Vice Chancellor, Sri Anil Gokak, Swami mentioned in that discourse, the last part of the discourse, Swami said, do you know which is the best prayer that everyone should make? It is a prayer that I have given to all of you to chant every single day. Samasta lokaha sukhino bhavantu. Let all beings in all the worlds be happy. That is the best prayer you should make. Why? That's the best prayer you can make. Why is it the best prayer? It is the best prayer because you are praying for the well-being of everyone in this world. And when you pray for everyone's well-being, your own well-being gets included in that and gets taken care of. So that is the best prayer that we can and we should make. And at all other times, we should be equanimous of whatever happens in our lives, irrespective of the situations we are in, because we have left the outcome of the situation to God. In the Satyasai Vahini that Swami had written, Swami said, 3 types of activities reach God and earn his grace. 1, activity not prompted by personal desire. 2nd, activity emanating from unselfish love. And 3rd, prayers arising from pure hearts. Prayers have to be unselfish, saturated with love, and free from the taint of attachment to the gift that that prayer would bring. Such clear instructions on how our prayers should be. And all of these indicate that prayer is meant to build in us equanimity of whatever happens, because prayers are not meant to be selfish and tainted with self-interest. I'll share an experience with you. Professor Nanjundaya, the former controller of examinations of our university, was traveling with Swami in the car. And in the course of the conversation, he asked Swami, Swami, what does God do? What does God do? Such an interesting question. uh, which parts of the universe take care does God take care of, and where does he intervene and where he doesn't intervene. So this was a conversation which was going on. And then Swami said, presume that the president of India is going on the street and there is some accident, some brawl, some mishap on the road. Does he get down from his car and go and resolve it? No. Who takes care of that? The designated authorities take care of that. Swami said, similarly, God has divided the management of the universe into the hands of all these great powers and principles that are venerated as the various deities. These deities have been shown in human form so that we can relate to them. They are actually principles or tattvas that are guiding and guarding various aspects of the management of the universe, which is working with such flawless precision. We can predict exactly at what time the sun will rise, exactly at what time it will set. All of these things work with clockwork precision because it is these powers that manage the universe so effortlessly and efficiently. Then what does God do? Professor Nanjundai asked. Swami said, there are only three departments which God has kept with him. And if anybody makes applications or prayers in these three departments, then God responds. What are those? One, selfless love. Second, selfless service. Third, selfless sadhana. If there are prayers, problems in these three areas, one on one God responds. Everything else is delegated to other principles and tattvas. Such a fascinating insight, because if we reflect, that's exactly how our organization, the Satsai organization, has been designed. These are the three wings of the organization. That's exactly how the Satsai educational institutions have been designed. Swami always used to say, in my university, the medium of instruction is discipline, and love, service, and sadhana are the first, second, and third languages. So he has trained generations of students in these three core areas, which are the only ones which are important for him, so that we can speak these three languages and communicate with God and be recipients of his grace and his blessings. Very interesting to note that Swami mentioned something very similar in 1947 when he wrote the letter to his brother, Seshamaraju, where he said that I have a very unique definition of devotion. What is that definition of devotion? Those devoted to me should accept success and failure, victory and defeat with equanimity. That's a very clear expectation that Swami has from all the devotees. In fact, for those who call themselves Sai devotees, this is the kind of characteristics, the behavioral traits that have to be ingrained in us as per the manifesto Swami laid back in 1947. Hence, prayer is meant to cultivate that equanimity in us. Unfortunately, we use prayer as a means to get benefits for what we want. Here's a personal example I'll share as to how prayer can help in equanimity. This is about my own great grandmother, Srimati Kanta Shah, uh, an ardent devotee of Swami. I'm the fourth generation of devotees in Swami's fold. And way back in 1965, the first time my great grandmother, Srimati Kanta Shah, and my great grandfather, Sri Natwarlal Shah, and several other family members visited Puttaparthi. Puttaparthi in those days was not with all these facilities that we see today. It was very, very simple. Devotees had many times to stay under the trees. The branches of the trees were their roofs, and that's where they used to also cook at the base of the tree. Used to cook for themselves. There was no canteen. There were no such facilities, and they were at the mercy of the elements. But the joy was that Swami would go from tree to every devotee and bless them. In fact, he would ask them, "What have you cooked for me today?" And he would always tell them that make the most of these opportunities. These will not come again. You will never have such proximity in the future. We are all witness to how things changed over 45 years. But yes, so 1965 was when our family's first interactions with Swami started. And my great grandmother, my grandmother, and others used to visit Puttaparthi often. And then from 1967, Swami started visiting Mumbai 2-3 times a year because of the construction of Dharmakshetra. And then so many other activities in Mumbai, establishment of Bal Vikas in 69, the first world conference of the Satsai organizations in Dharma in Mumbai in 1968. Swami went to East Africa from Mumbai. Mumbai was like thriving with the Sai presence for those 15 years. And my great grandmother would never miss an opportunity to have Swami's darshan. But sometime around 74, she was detected with cancer. And it wasn't going to be possible for her to go to, it was an advanced stage of cancer. It wasn't going to be possible for her to go to Puttaparthi. By the time Swami came to Mumbai in the first week of January 1975, it wasn't going to be possible for her even to go to Dharmakshetra, which was about 10 to 15 kilometers away from where she stayed. So on the day when Swami landed in Mumbai, he himself asked the organizers, the one who was accompanying him, how is this particular devotee? So they said that this is how the situation is, and she's convalescing. So Swami said, tell her I will visit her this evening. So the first thing Swami told when he landed in Bombay was that he wanted to visit my great grandmother at her residence. Tell her their family not to make any preparations. I just want to visit her. So at least about 6 hours later, Swami came. This was in Santa Cruz West, where their ancestral home was. And Swami came, blessed the members of the family. He went straight into my great grandmother's room. My great grandmother was lying down on the cot. My great grandfather was there. And there was a chair which was kept for Swami. Swami sat on that chair. He spoke to her and materialized vibhuti and gave her. And then she asked her, what do you want? My great grandmother said, Swami, I know whatever I'm going through is an outcome of my karma. Please bless me that I have the strength to undergo this karma and I'm done with it in this lifetime. Swami said, very happy. And he put his hand on her head and he said, yes, tathastu, so be it. And then she wanted to have Swami's Pad Namaskar. Now she was not able to get up. How do you have Pad Namaskar without getting up? So Swami asked my great grandfather, there was a stool nearby, to place that stool very close to my great grandmother's bed. And when the stool was placed, Swami was sitting on the chair. He lifted his feet and put his feet on top of that stool. And then my great grandmother could touch Swami's feet and take his Pad Namaskar. Swami spent some more moments there, blessed her, and left. 3 months later, it was a Thursday, and in the month of April, Thursday morning, she got up and then she said, today is Thursday, today afternoon Swami is going to come, make arrangements for the Aarti. Oh, Swami going to come? People thought she's just having some imagination, some visualization, etc. And around the afternoon time, when everybody was getting ready for the evening food, etc., were making arrangements, she silently breathed her last in her room. We don't know whether Swami probably came to take her along on her journey to eternity. 29 years later, in 2004, I was sitting with Swami in the interview room. There were a few of us whom Swami had blessed to start their Masters in Philosophy program. And then in the course of the conversation, he was talking and then he asked me, how is great grandmother? That was 1975. This was 2004, 29 years apart. How is great grandmother? I said, Swami, and I pointed at him. And Swami smiled. First, I pointed up. Then instantly I realized, oh, not there, but with the master. Swami smiled and he said, yes, she was a great devotee. She had great devotion for Swami. 29 years apart, millions of people that Swami would have met in the intervening years. But the kind of prayer, the devotion, the faith is what God appreciates the most. It was equanimity in that situation that she sought. She did not seek cure to her illness. She sought grace to bear that illness with equal fortitude. That is what prayer is meant to equip us with. Third, why? Third alphabet of the prayer, word prayer in the reverse order. Why? Yearning. Our prayer should be filled with yearning. There is a Chinakatha which I'd like to share as to how our prayers are usually and how they should be. This was in 1978, a summer course. Swami was sharing the story of Guru Nanak and the founder of Sikhism, and the story of the Mughal emperor of that time. And the Guru Nanak was making a lot of effort to bring harmony between the Hindu and Muslim religions and the followers of those two faiths. And the Mughal emperor was very appreciative of that. So he invited Guru Nanak to come to the mosque and participate in the prayer. So Guru Nanak very willingly agreed. And the next Friday, when the prayer was to be, the emperor sent a golden palanquin for Guru Nanak. And Guru Nanak rejected it, saying, you don't go to God sitting in a golden palanquin. You go to his abode as a beggar for his grace. And he walked to the mosque and he sat there. And then the mullah, the one who conducted the Friday prayers, started singing the prayers. And Guru Nanak started laughing loudly. And the whole congregation was quite surprised as to why Guru Nanak was laughing at the mullah. After all, he was working towards unity between the two faiths. Why was he behaving this way? But they kept quiet. And after some time, the emperor himself started participating in the prayer session. And Guru Nanak started laughing even loudly. Now, this was quite, what word should I use? Quite disrespectful to the position of the Shahanshah. So people were aghast. They were wondering what kind of ramifications this would lead to. But everybody kept quiet. They had a lot of respect for Guru Nanak. And after the whole thing was over, the emperor asked Guru Nanak, why did you laugh loudly when the mullah was conducting the prayer? And Guru Nanak said, that is because the mullah was only conducting the prayer mechanically. His mind was with his sick child at his home. And all the while he was conducting the prayer, singing the glory of Allah, but having no faith in the power of Allah and worrying constantly about his sick child back in his house. And then the emperor asked, and why did you laugh even loudly when I was praying? So then Nanak said, you know why I was laughing? You were thinking not of Allah, but of all those beautiful Arabic horses that have arrived this morning. You're very fond of horses, aren't you? And your thoughts were at the beauty and the grandeur of those horses. So your prayer to Allah were mechanical. There was no yearning for his glory, for his grandeur, for the all merciful, for the all compassionate Allah whose name you were extolling. There was no yearning in your prayer. That is why I was laughing. Yearning is very, very crucial in our prayer. In May 1994, in Kodaikanal, on the 14th to be specific, while interacting with students, Swami said, prayer is not extolling the divinity. Prayer is meant for sincere yearning for the realization of the self. Such a prayer alone will melt the heart of God and make him act accordingly. If we see the life of great devotees, it is this sincere yearning that they had for God and for realizing their oneness with God that that was evident, and it was not transactional deals with God, because their prayers were coming from the heart. Most of our prayers come from the lips. The lips are doing the prayers, and the mind is running into the market, into the cinema house, into the memory lanes of the past and the unknown lanes of the future. It is not in alignment with the lips and in yearning for God. And if we look at the examples of great devotees, Prahalada, Swami used to give his example so many times. Prahalada did not pray for any favor or out of fear of his father Hiranyakashyap. He prayed because he knew that there is only one God, and he loved him with all his heart. Narayana, Narayana, Narayana. That was his constant prayer. Nothing else. Please protect me. Please save me. Please give good brains to my father. Please give me long life. No such transactional deals. Just the name and the yearning for love and grace of God. And it was that which rescued him from ignominy and life-threatening situations which his father Hiranyakashyap inflicted on him. In life, What can we learn from the prayers of Prahlada? Do we seek for redemption from problems and difficulties from God, or we seek for him alone? Let's take another example. Arjuna. Arjuna did not pray to Krishna for victory in the battle. That is what is the biggest learning from that episode, where Duryodhana and Arjuna both come to Krishna seeking his help. And Krishna says, I have decided not to take any weapons in my hand. So Duryodhana said, so Krishna asked each to select what he wants. Duryodhana requested for the army. Arjuna had the first chance. Arjuna said, I want Krishna. Duryodhana pretended that, oh, because Arjuna has already selected Krishna, I will go for the army. In the heart of hearts, he wanted the army. Krishna asked Arjuna, why don't you go for my army, my Narayani Sena? After all, you have to fight such a great battle. Arjuna said with humble submission, O Lord, what is the value of the Narayani Sena without Narayana himself? So Arjuna did not aspire for victory in the battlefield. He aspired for the company of God by his side all the time, guiding him, guarding him. In our life, what can we learn from Arjuna? Do we seek God himself, or we seek benefits that the presence of God in our life can give us? These are two very important questions that we can ask ourselves with respect to our prayers from the life of Prahlada and the life of Arjuna. Both these devotees were extolled by Swami on innumerable occasions, and both have used prayer as a powerful tool, have won God's grace. But what was the secret behind their success? I just discussed that briefly. Swami has said in the Prashanti Vahini, if the devotee has dedicated everything, body, mind, and existence to the Lord, he will himself look after everything, for he will always be with the devotee. Under such circumstances, there is no need even for prayer. But the question that we need to ask ourselves, have we so dedicated ourselves and surrendered everything to the Lord? Probably not. Because when losses occur, when calamities strike us, when our plans go awry, we blame God. And on the other hand, when everything goes well, we praise him. So we have not been sincere in our understanding of God's modus operandi in conferring grace. It is this yearning behind our prayers that makes all the difference. Krishna was far away in Dwarka when Draupadi called him out in prayer. And Swami has narrated this very beautiful story about Draupadi's prayer to Krishna when she was humiliated in the court of Hastinapura. She called out, O Dwarika Nivasi, O Mathura Nivasi, all the places where Krishna is supposedly stayed. But Krishna did not respond. When did he finally respond? When she said, O Hridaya Nivasi, O resident of my heart. When she acknowledged with full yearning that Krishna was verily residing in her heart, did Krishna respond? This very humorous story with some of us, with our students in Kodaikanal. Once all the students were sitting with Swami in the dining hall in Kodaikanal. And Swami was, the food was about to begin. And all the students chanted Brahmarpanam. And after chanting Brahmarpanam, everybody was looking at Swami. They chanted with their eyes closed, and then they opened their eyes and Swami was looking at them. And then Swami said, all of you chanted Brahmarpanam, but none of your Brahmarpanam prayers reached me, though I am sitting so close. Because you were more in a hurry to consume all the delicious food in front of you. There was no yearning in your prayer. So we may be close to God, but it will not reach him if we do not have yearning. We may be far, far away from God, but it will reach him. Because what distinguishes one prayer from the other is not the distance of the devotee from God, because God is verily the resident of his heart. What will distinguish one prayer from the other is the yearning behind that prayer. And that is very, very important. In fact, this is a question which one of the young adults had asked me during one of my talks in the US. What language does God understand? Do we need to chant prayers in Sanskrit so that God can listen to our prayers? The answer has been given by Swami himself. I mean, I'm sure a lot of kids would be asking that question in your homes. Can I pray to God in English? Can I pray to God in Irish? Can I pray to God in French? Or should I have to pray in God in Sanskrit or Telugu? Swami has said there is only one language, the language of the heart. And a pure thought from a pure heart is more powerful than a mantra. So, what is important is not the language. What is important is purity. And this is what is evident in all the examples of great devotees that I shared in this particular subsection, Y, which is on yearning. Then we'll go to the last part, the other three alphabets, and I've combined the PRAYER. So we covered R, which is reminder. We covered E, which is equanimity. We covered Y, which is yearning. And now there is an A and an R, right? Prayer, R, and then A. What do these stand for? Action, result. Action, result. Action, result. This is the formula of life. Action, result. Action, result. We do action, we seek results. Sometimes we do good, we may get good. But most of the time when we do bad, we still expect good. So what does prayer tell us about this? I'll share a nice experience from my own interactions with Swami. This was again in the year 2007. It was my birthday in April. And I had this desire that Swami should call me by my name, Shashank. Swami usually used to call me by synonyms. That fair boy, that Bombay boy, that boy who spoke last week, that boy who got gold medal, that boy who got 5 out of 5, some synonyms connected with my latest details of that time period. And hence I had this desire that I should hear Swami's name, my name from Swami's lips. So I wrote that in that letter and gave it to Swami. And then this was in the darshan line. Swami took that letter, moved away. I had went into the interview room, etc. 1 week passed. I had the opportunity to interact with Swami in a bhajan hall on that particular day. And while Swami was talking to me, he said, you know, this Shashank, he's a gold medalist. You know, this Shashank, he's got 5 out of 5. You know, this Shashank, he's a very good speaker. This went on, you know, this Shashank, you know, this Shashank, 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 Shashank. I was wondering, why is Swami calling out my name for so many times? I went back, sat in my place in the bhajan hall, 10th row, 12th row. And then when the bhajans began, it struck me that I had only prayed to Swami a week ago that he should call me by my name. Very often we make prayers to God based on our requirements at that point in time. We forget the ramifications of the prayer, whether it's relevant in the future or not, whether it's going to be beneficial for our spiritual progress or not. We make prayers here and now. Sometimes God may respond to those prayers also. But the ramifications, the results, the outcomes of the prayer, if they are not in our interest, will have to be borne by us. So Swami used to say, be very careful about what you pray. You are standing on the shores of the sea. You can only see shells. So you think the ocean is capable of giving shells. You ask for shells. Actual wealth of the ocean lies deep inside the treasures. You can't see them. So you don't know about their existence. And so you don't ask for them. But if you leave it to God, He will give you the deepest and the most precious treasures from within. Do not ask for shells. Some used to chide devotees, used to say, why do you come to the Kalpa Vriksha and ask for coffee powder? Coffee powder is available in the grocery store. Ask from God that which the world cannot give you. Ask for God Himself. I have done a rough calculation in Swami's lifetime. He would have given 100,000 personal interviews over a period of probably 55 to 58 years, which means one-on-one, he has interacted with 2 million devotees in the interview room. And 99% of those interactions were about prayers for the body, prayers for the mind, prayers for the family, prayers for problems, for promotion, for marriage, for children, etc., etc. Probably that's why even in the last final years of his life, Swami used to say, Vetekutunnanu, I'm still searching for a true devotee. Even after 6 decades, I have not found a true devotee. Swami used to say, prayer does not mean begging. Unfortunately, prayers end up becoming deal-making sessions with God. If I get a lottery, I will go to Tirupati and shave my hair. Is God interested in your dirty hair? Swami used to say, Tirupati Balaji has beautiful locks. He doesn't need your dirty hair. Don't make God a wish fulfilling tree of such mundane and trivial kinds. Ask him for that which the creator of the universe can give. He is not interested in your copper coins. In 1991, during the summer course, Swami said, devotees behave with God like shareholders in a company and want to strike a deal with God. They say, if this happens, this is in partnership with God. If this happens, I will give you this. He's not interested. You have to surrender to God and leave it to him. That is all that is possible, nothing else. And often what happens, we use prayers as an excuse for inaction. I have prayed to God, God will do the needful. The question Swami would ask, is God your servant to do? Or are you God's servant to do what he wants you to do? We end up making requests in our prayers as if we are doing a favor to him by living in this world. There used to be a joke in our ecosystem that many people believe that they are God's gift to mankind. We think of ourselves as so important and so valuable, and hence God should do this for me, God should do that for me. What God is he if he cannot answer my prayer? My prayer is genuine, he is not responding, which means there is a problem with him, not with me. These are the kind of excuses we have in the name of prayer. But prayer is about right action and no result. In the Mahabharata, Lord Krishna had said that prayer is not asking from God what one wants, but surrendering all expectations and aspirations at his lotus feet and accepting his will, as we saw in that merchant versus farmer dilemma. To constantly indulge in karma through the practice of dharma, that is the purpose of life. In the name of prayer, if one gives up karma, then that is not prayer, because then even God cannot help you to execute his will through your actions, because you have given up the imperative of action itself. And often then we whine, why does this happen to me? Why are we suffering? Why is God putting me into these problems, etc.? As if God derives some super sadistic pleasure in putting us through all these difficult situations. In 1999, April, on the 9th of April, while talking to students in Trai Vrindavan, Swami said, God is like a postman. When a postman comes to your house, if the news in that letter is positive, do you reward the postman with gifts and cash and chocolates? No. Why? Because I did what I did and hence I got that good news. Postman is not responsible. Similarly, if there is a bad news, a news of death, of accident, of loss, of losing job, will you thrash the postman? No, because the cause is my action, not the postman. Swami said similarly, God is like a postman. He gives you what you yourself have invested in. He is not responsible. He is just a witness. So prayer is a call to action. And that's why Swami always used to say, through your prayers, I don't want your devotion. I want your transformation. Keeping the sugarcane in one corner of the room, we are not going to get sugar. The sugar has to be crushed. The juice has to be extracted. It has to be heated. It has to be converted into sugar crystals. Those sugar crystals, those sugar lumps have to be pounded and transformed into fine sugar crystals, which we then, when we put in our tetli tea and consume early in the morning along with breakfast, then we get the sweet taste. That is the kind of effort that we need to make. And for that, the grace of God is always available, because grace of God is like the cosmic wind. It is present everywhere. The one who makes the effort to raise the sails of one's ship of life will progress ahead with the grace of God. The one who sits in inaction can never achieve the grace of God, nor can expect his prayers to work. So prayer is about action and result. Result is left at God's feet. Most of you would have seen the beautiful mural at the end of Prashanti Nilayam Bhajan Hall. What is the pose of Krishna there when he's talking to Arjuna? One hand is at his chest and the other hand is in this posture. That mudra, what is the meaning? Krishna is telling Arjuna, Mamekam Sharanam Vraja. Surrender to me and me alone. I will take care of your welfare and your farewell. You are not to be worried about the outcome of whatever you do if you leave it to me. Shabari in the Ramayana did not pray for anything specific. She was only interested in giving her best to God. She was interested in giving the best hospitality, the best fruits. And that's why she had bitten those fruits and given those half bitten fruits to Rama, because she did not want one bitter, one sour fruit to go into Rama's mouth. She did not expect anything in exchange. What did Jatayu do? Jatayu gave his life to protect Sita when Ravana was taking her away to Lanka. There was so much of symbolism in all of these. What did he get? He did not do with any expectation. He did his action, his karma, with the best intention possible to please their God, Rama. Both of these examples are from the Ramayana. And I'm bringing the scriptures to show, and these are examples that Swami had highlighted, how prayers are actually a call to action. Both of them prayed. Both of them indulged in action without any expectation of result. And what did they get? They got that which nobody else expected that anybody can get. Shabri was conferred the supreme liberation. And Jatayu got Rama's lap when he was breathing his last, a privilege which even Dasharatha did not get blessed with. So prayers are a call to action. We have to do our best and leave the rest to him. They got unasked because they yearned only for him and not for benefits from him. We yearn for benefits from him and not for him, and that's why we are the losers. They aspired for him and not for benefits, and they emerged truly victorious and are remembered as examples of as great devotees eons after they culminated their earthly sojourns. But this is contrary to the common belief. Here I'm talking about action orientation. The world talks about result orientation. All of you who are working in the corporate world are constantly nudged for quarter on quarter results. Quarter on quarter, the company should succeed. We have to, by hook or crook, make profits so that we grow and grow and grow and grow and unending growth at the cost of all resources, at the cost of the planet, at the cost of its people. Growth is all that most corporations aspire for. And that is the reason why the earth is undergoing such tremendous problems, because we've ruined the earth and its treasures for some selfish short-term gains. So how do we balance this action orientation with result orientation? That is because in reality, spirituality teaches us that action orientation is important, because action alone are in our hands. That's why in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna had said, Karmanneva adhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana. You only have action in your hands. You do not have results, because results are not a direct outcome of your actions. They are an outcome of several other factors. But God does not look at the outcome of your results. God looks at the intention behind your action. That is what we see with Prahalada. That is what we see with Arjuna. That is what we see with Shabari. That is what we see with Jatayu. That is what we saw in the case of my great grandmother and several others. Of a fascinating example of such action orientation and no expectation of results is Professor Narayana Kasturi, Swami's biographer and Swami's translator and the first postmaster of Prashanti Nilayam and the administrator, and he had some dozen designations because the only man running the show there. An illustrious career, a professor of history at the Mysore University, a stint at the All India Radio in Delhi, and his literature in Kannada language is adored even today. His personal life was quite in shambles. He lost his son at an early age. His daughter had 3 sons, but had some lot of marital problems. His wife was bedridden for 25 years. And Professor Kasturi was meeting Swami 4 times a day. But never once in those 4 meetings per day for 25 years did he ever complain to Swami that my wife is bedridden, my daughter has severe marital problems, there are issues connected with my grandchildren, etc., etc. And when people would ask him, you have so much access to Swami, why don't you ask him? You are doing so much of work. Why don't you ask him for some results? He said, it is not for me to tell Swami what he should do for me. It is for me to indulge in action and do the best that I can do for Swami and leave the results of that with Swami, because whatever he does is in our best interest. These are the examples that show that it is the intention which is most important. For the envelope to reach the destination called God, the envelope as a prayer, the stamp is our intention, and the envelope is the action. Love and selflessness are the stamp, and the envelope is like a prayer, and that prayer will give us the guarantee and give us the clarity to understand that, oh God, grant me the serenity to accept the things that I cannot change. Give me the courage to change the things I can. And above all, give me the wisdom to know the difference between the two. Very important part of what prayer is meant to achieve in our lives. Last aspect of prayer, and I'll conclude. P. P stands for purpose. I'll share a personal example. I know I've taken 15 more minutes, but the organizer said that in the flow, if I think I'm taking more time, it's okay, please go ahead. So I'm taking the liberty to take about 5 minutes more before I conclude. This was in the year 2013, the P of purpose. In the year 2013, I was given the responsibility of coordinating, directing this particular drama for the sports meet program of the Prashanthi Nilayam campus in Swami's University. I was doing my postdoctoral research at that time. And it was my long time aspiration to direct a drama on the life of Sri Adi Shankaracharya, the greatest teacher of Vedanta, of Advaita Vedanta, and the one who transformed Hinduism and Sanatana Dharma into the form that has survived nearly 1500 years later. So one of the foremost teachers who achieved so much in 32 years and culminated his life sojourn. And while I was coordinating the drama, reading up his life, coordinating with the team, with the dialogues, actions, etc., I was constantly thinking to myself, I was reaching a similar age. That was also the age when Lord Jesus Christ culminated his earthly sojourn. I was having these thoughts. These people whom Swami lays before us as extraordinary examples. It's for you. You may want to analyze Adi Shankaracharya and Jesus Christ. These are two personalities over and above Rama and Krishna, whom Swami has spoken about on most number of discourses. Most number of discourses. There's a series of books that I had edited when I was heading Swami's publications division in the hostel. We call Sai Vani. Sai Vani, the first one, the second part, Avatar on Mahapurushas. There we've covered the lives of 24 such great individuals, the 6 prophets, the 4 acharyas, and about 15 to 18 saints. In that, the maximum portion is covered by Swami of Jesus Christ and Adi Shankaracharya. Both of them lived about 32 years. I was around the same age group at that time. So while I was doing this drama coordination, I was asking myself and praying to Swami, Swami, you put these examples before us. They've achieved so much in their life. What have we achieved? What should we be doing? These were the thoughts that were going on in my mind. The drama was over, very well received. It's available on YouTube. You may want to watch it. It's called Shankar Digvijayam. You can put the title Shankar Digvijayam, January 2013 sports meet drama. It's available in YouTube. You must watch, just an hour long. The drama was over. Two weeks were over. And one fine night, I got a dream. In the dream, I was with Swami in the interview room. In the interview room, I was conversing with Swami, and this question, this prayer, this lack of clarity in my mind was laid before Swami. And Swami said, "You are a researcher, isn't it?" I said, "Yes, Swami." "What does a researcher do?" Then Swami answered the question. "A researcher prepares a table of contents of what all he is going to cover in his research project." Right? I said, "Yes, Swami." And then he very scrupulously follows each aspect of that table of contents and works towards it diligently. Yes, Swami. Swami said, similarly, you must prepare a table of contents for your life and then work diligently towards achieving each of them with a clear purpose in your mind. I am not after quantity. I am interested in quality. So do not compare yourself with anybody else. You do your best and work towards that purpose. Prayer helps us achieve that purpose. How? Swami has made it very simple. What is the purpose of life? Swami has said, Sarva karma bhagavad prityartham. Do every action, every activity as an offering to God. Swami is called this Pavitra Karma. Whatever you do to make God happy. A teacher teaches the students in the classroom as if she's teaching God. A lawyer fights for his client in the court as if he is fighting for God and righteousness and dharma. A doctor treats a patient in the hospital as if he is treating God in that form. A businessman provides the customer with products and services as if she or she is serving God. That does not mean that you don't charge fees to the student, to the client, to the patient and the customer for the product or service. That means you do it with that intention that you're doing with God. Even a homemaker can transform a simple activity of making food into a spiritual act. If he or she thinks that I'm cooking this food for Swami, for God, it is only incidental that my family members are eating it. So while the action is mundane, the intention is divine, and we are helped in achieving the purpose. This is the greatest teaching we've received in the Satyasai educational institutions. But the Karthik Prashant would also be able to relate to it. Every activity in the hostel, in the college, in the mandir was done with the single pointed purpose of making Swami happy. In fact, that is the best prayer and the best analytical tool to be sure that whatever we are doing is to make him happy. And it is this power of prayer that has been given to each one of us to keep in mind whatever we are doing when we are praying. If Swami was here, how would he have reacted to this? How would I have behaved? How would I have thought? How would I have decided? That will help us use our prayer and the purpose in the right direction. While I conclude, I'd like to say, why is prayer mentioned only with respect to human beings? Why don't we have examples of birds and beasts praying? Because it is the human life alone which has the power to achieve the supreme mergence with divinity. In the 8.4 million species in this creation, only human life has the capacity to be born as a human being and die with the realization that they are divine. And that is why we have to use the power of prayer with the purpose to achieve this ultimate outcome. And the Satyasai organizations provide us this platform. For this, we need to understand the purpose of the Satyasai organizations. The Satyasai International Organization is a spiritual organization. It aims at helping each member to achieve their spiritual destiny. And that is the fundamental principle that all are inherently divine, and that spiritual identity is what binds humanity together. However, often we come to this platform and then try to pray for and work towards achieving mundane bodily successes, prestige, appreciation, visibility, power. Isn't it quite a dichotomy that we are using a spiritual platform for non-spiritual purposes? It is quite a wasted opportunity. I'll conclude with a quotation of Swami, which he gave on 10th of April 2000. He said, every action, every prayer, every meditation that you do is for the sake of your own satisfaction. It is not to please God. What is it that you have to do for the sake of God in order to please God? You have to think of him with pure and steady feelings. All that God wants from you is not your dirty hair or copper coins or partnership deals. All that he wants from you is your pure, unsullied heart. So, with this feeling, with this prayer, and this offering of our heart, let's understand the power of prayer and practice it in every activity that we participate. Let us use it to remind ourselves of our constant connect with Him and of our divine identity. Let us remain equanimous in all situations and offer gratitude to Him for His grace and for all that He has done for us, is doing for us, and will continue to do for us. Let us yearn for His true love. Let us undertake actions to the best of our abilities and dedicate the result and outcomes to Him and surrender them at His lotus feet. And finally, let us emerge unscathed through this human sojourn on this planet of dust and use the power of prayer to achieve the purpose for which this human life has been given. I think that will be the most useful truly beneficial, highly noble, genuine, sacred use of human existence. With those words, I conclude. Jai Sai Ram.
Oh, Sarah, we're so fortunate to be under Swami's care and his guidance and his love. Even being in the current situation, the unprecedented situation, through the power of technology, through all these social media platforms, we get to be in touch and be in tune with Swami. And we get to hear such amazing talks by speakers such as our dear brother, Shashank. Thank you so much, dear brother, for sharing with us your lovely, amazing, beautiful interaction and your experiences with Swami. And thank you so much for elaborating the power of prayers, the power of gratitude prayer, and providing us the assurance that Swami is always with us, no matter what the situation. I've heard in Swami's discourses that Swami said prayer is like dialing a phone to God. And through prayers, we can create that automatic connection with Swami. So I would like to urge and request all of us who are present today to always pray to Swami, to always pray, make a prayer of gratitude to Swami. With this, on behalf of all the organizing committee team, I'd like to thank you all for being with us today. And I'd like to conclude with the prayers. Samasta lokaha sukhino bhavantu. Samasta lokaha sukhino bhavantu. Samasta lokaha sukhino bhavantu. May all the beings everywhere be blessed and be happy. Jai Sai Ram.